let's jump right on into game number 2 as we load up onto Antigua Shipyard here. And spawning over to our left-hand side as our blue Zerg. He goes by the name of AZUBU's viOlet.
And spawning in the opposite corner of Antigua Shipyard, as is the standard on this map construction nowadays, we have from Team it is Nestea.
Nestea trying to make a dint here, trying to advance on to IronSquid 2 in the round of 16. And, I mean, for him, he already finished top 4, right, in IronSquid 1. So
yeah.
he needs to, I can only imagine he wants to go back to the finals of IronSquid number 2. I know that from hearsay, or not even hearsay, just from fact, that the guys that finished top 4 IronSquid went back to all the Koreans, talked to the other Koreans and said, IronSquid 1 was an amazing tournament, guys. You should, if you get a chance to play in another one, you definitely should. So that's another one of the reasons why we have such a phenomenal lineup here, because the Koreans really, really value this tournament.
Yeah, and in fact, it is super champion heavy. I mean, in all your write-ups and all your articles, I mean, the way you can list them up, I mean, if these players were stranded on like a desert island, they could build a shelter out of all their trophies, awards, and checks.
It's true, man. Especially those checks. They're useful for plank wood. All right.
viOlet going yet again for somewhat of a swift pool. Not an extremely early pool, just kind of your standard pool first into hatch opening. And of course, Nestea, other than his 8 pool builds, I would say that he most consistently early expands. I almost never see Nestea actually go for a 14 pool.
Yeah, the 14 pool's not really something he's an advocate of. He'd much rather end up going for either the hatchery first or the early pool. But so it's interesting to see him going for just his normal standard hatch as for now. Meanwhile, back home for viOlet, he likes the 14 pool because it gives him a very, very nice defensive presence of mind, and it also gives him the opportunity to put on aggression where he wants to. And that's really a viOlet to a T now, that the diversity that can come out from a player like viOlet.
Gosh, it's so funny because each of these players has some of the most distinctive looks to them of any Zerg player. It's very easy to sort of pick them out if they're both smurfing. That looks very Nestea-like. That looks very viOlet-like. viOlet with his unorthodox, his counterattack aggression, his willingness and propensity to just assault you if he senses any weakness. And then Nestea, likewise, his defense, his macro, his emphasis on taking the game to the next stage and not really giving up any edge. It's really cool to see these two players clash. And already we see the fast Zergling speed out of Nestea. Over on camp viOlet, we're seeing his second queen and speed come out as well. So this is pretty much tied at this point.
And for now, we have Mr. Nestea trying to poke away at the Overlord in the back of his natural, but cannot grab that. A little bit too far out of his range for now. Nestea going for a Roach War and skipping Baneling Nest. So he's looking to put on, well, either he's looking to put on a lot of aggression very quickly since he's still mining gas and he's still getting the speed, which is the much more likely scenario of, in comparison to the latter that I was going to mention, which is transitioning onto a layer very quickly for Gliry Constitution. And then just powering into a good mid-game. But this could get scary for viOlet here.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit intimidating for viOlet to be up against the sort of Roach pressure, although I wouldn't be surprised to see Nestea go for some sort of Roach defense for a fast third. Even though the third is close, it still it kind of has that deceptively long distance, given the way that speed Zerglings can exploit off-creep units in the early game. So we are seeing the ultra-fast layer, the 6-minute layer out of viOlet. I do think, though, that this could turn out to be one of these clinic examples of how do you defend a Roach rush when you don't build roaches yourself.
Yeah, viOlet has the possibilities to go into that kind of play. Just position Spine Crawlers well, position Zerglings well. Even Banelings, believe it or not, can be very useful in this situation, even if it's all just roaches. Of course, it's not going to be. Nestea does follow this up with Speedling reinforcements to make it all the more potent in terms of how he needs to get across the map. And, those Banelings are very, very useful to negate those Zerglings.
There's the third coming out of Nestea, so it looks like a weird mix between the attack plus expand combination, but, you know, is delaying a lot of those essential defensive pieces. For Nestea, he's not going to have the Infestors up to deal with Mutalisk. We're seeing viOlet build all those extra Spine Crawlers, still just chilling at 3 gas. The layer is done. viOlet even building an Evolution Chamber leading the front line, so this is going to be nearly impossible for Nestea to break, but, I mean, do you think the damage has already been done?
This is cool, though. I mean, he bought a little bit of time with that Evolution Chamber alone. In terms of, has the damage already been done, we'll have to see. As, I mean, Nestea's going to pull back, and you're right, though, because with what you said before in terms of he's not going to have anything to deal with the Mutalisks. This is, unless Nestea sees those very soon, sees the Spire, I'm a little bit worried for him.
Well, again, Nestea loves to build his drones, and upon seeing that wall of spines, you have clear permission to drone. There's really no threat of anything getting hurled at you at that point in time, and with this Overlord outside the front and these counterattack Zerglings ready to peel open the debris at the third base, I actually think Nestea's doing a very smart series of transitions to prep himself up for that mid-game. So we see that his layer is nearing completion. That third base is instantly taken down by Nestea.
Nice move there. Zerglings trying to get out, but the Banelings will be able to shut that down eventually. And elsewhere, I mean, the layer's morphing in now for Nestea, and it does morph in now. But again, this counter-aggression's on the way, and the Mutalisks are going to be out soon. I'm just so scared, because whenever I see this, I feel as if, well, you know, there should be an Overseer diving in right now for Nestea to actually spot this.
Well, looks like Nestea is not going to have the defense that he needs up. He should lose that one queen at the natural expansion. Queen in the main is going to get gone. And of course, this is not a play to try to mess up this production. This is a play to remove the only anti-air that Nestea has. I mean, viOlet playing this out absolutely brilliantly. I mean, if you go to that unit's lost tab, it's almost identical. But at this point in time, look at this. Spreading viOlet thin. He's going anywhere where there could possibly be an open queen. I'm trying to pick that off. Oh!
Well, that just happened, Sean. I didn't expect that.
Rewarding.
Apparently.
Really enjoyed that moment.
viOlet now just trying to get up a few more Zerglings, but the Mutalisks are on the way. They're going to grant him a huge amount of map control here, and from that point on, I mean, Nestea has to throw down spores everywhere. He didn't have that many queens. He's trying to recuperate those losses, and with these spores on the way, that is a lot of lost mining time. It's lost investment that's not going to be too useful later on. There's multiple reasons why getting spores in this matchup is not very useful to you.
So we're seeing, wow, viOlet suiciding right on in with the Mutalisks, even with this huge army of roaches trying to sweep on in. Zerglings are assaulting the third base. Look at this, viOlet opting to go for the counterattack, and it actually might work. He's killing off a lot of key structures. Roaches now try to defend the third, but Nestea just waltzes right, or excuse me, viOlet waltzes right on over to the main, and the natural where there's open drones, open queens.
Oh, but viOlet has got so many Spine Crawlers at his natural. All the roaches are trying to negate it by swinging around here, and they actually do a pretty good job. But there's Mutalisks out here now. Those roaches are always going to end up dying. How much damage can he do behind this? Actually, viOlet's killed 38 workers, and Nestea is trying to seek it up.
What on earth? And now we have the roaches trapped. I mean, viOlet is down to 65 supply, but I mean, most of the supply for Nestea is in roaches. Nestea needs to kill off as many of these as he can, but viOlet knows, you know what, I'm just going to kill off these roaches. Now I have a wall of spines, I have layer, I can drop creep, move the spines all the way forward, and go back to only attack, only harass mode, and there's just not that much that Nestea can do.
You know what's even more funky, though? It's the fact that despite killing 38 workers from viOlet, Nestea still has 38 workers still on the map, with 7 more on the way. So, I mean, yes, he's behind in terms of the income wait a minute. I'm not even looking at this right. No, Nestea actually has 59 workers. So he's almost made 100 workers during this entire game already. What the hell?
Well, I mean, when you're up against viOlet, a player who is known for wanting to fight workers more so than any other unit, makes total sense that you would be forced to do that. But even with this small amount of space that Nestea has to deflect, It's still so difficult. Mutalisk now moving into the main base, but we're seeing that with the queens that Violet picked off early, all the queen energy has had to be devoted to injects. So there is not the creep spread connecting everything together. So soaring up to 46 total workers killed. AZUBU, Violet's wall of spines should be enough to keep him in the game.
And he just... the thing that I'm scared about for Violet is the fact that he only has one queen across the 2 bases. So despite having a macro hatch as well, he just doesn't really have that much lava. Whereas Nestea has tons of lava and tons of production here, as well as a superior economy. And he's getting Roach Hydra, a mix that is extremely, extremely deadly, unless Violet can somehow eke it back with Infestors and Pathogen Glands, which is probably what he's going to be trying to do here.
Well, there goes down the 3rd base, and Violet's just going to be taking down whatever he can. Completely reasonable decision. Looks like a couple roaches are going to try to spring forward, and oh, a nice little split there by Violet to try to do maximum damage as well.
Yeah, I mean, the roaches from Nestea here trying to find a way in. It was a cool split by Nestea, but as you rightly pointed out, Violet reacted to it perfectly. But now, oh my god, Queens and Hydralisks moving out into the middle of the map. Nestea has such a strong army. Violet somehow needs to buy himself time, but with this army moving out into the middle of the map, look at this, Nestea's just going for the march with the Queens. Oh my god.
Well, I don't think this is necessarily a bad idea. I mean, if you've built up all these queens for defense, they're perfect to be able to expend on transfuse in one big attack. It's all going to come down to this wall of spines, but do you think Nestea's actually giving up an edge by doing this? Because he does have the lead in drones, he has the lead in tech, he has the lead in bases.
Well, it's a good way to look at it, because if you take all your queens away, then you don't really have as much production as you would do. You don't have... You're also, effectively, against a Mutalisk player, sacrificing a lot of your income as well, because the Mutalisks just dive around killing off whatever they want, like they're doing right now. If this doesn't work for Nestea, he's effectively going all in, I would say.
Ooh, this is going to be an absolutely just game-deciding attack for Nestea, because right now at his natural expansion, he has lost tons of drones. Overlords are now completely vulnerable. Ooh, gosh, that's going to be huge. More drones get transferred and get killed instantly. Violet is... I can't believe he might actually pull this off.
This is so weird. This is... If Nestea had just sat back on this 3 base with his queens defending all these bases, then I think he would have been in phenomenal shape, but Violet's pulling himself back in terms of macro. Look how many infestors he has against that army that's going to clump up really well. Oh, speaking of clumps.
And there's number 1.
He can't do anything. He can't do a thing because he doesn't have his own infestors.
And here's number 4.
Oh my god. Oh, Violet. Nestea, have you just thrown this game away?
Oh gosh, you know, Nestea didn't have a huge lead, but he did have a lead. 0-0 upgrades after killing off the majority of forces, and then they spread out. Now it's time for the roaches to assault right on in there. A brutal moment as we see Nestea having some of his units at the front of Violet's base, some of the units back home at his own base, and Violet manipulating Nestea into making a big error.
Oh my god, Violet, I mean, given the situation he was in, let's handle it like that and handle it like a boss. That was just insane. Violet pushing across the map right now. How much production does Nestea have? Not a whole lot here. He's trying to get up some roaches and hydralisks, but there's still so much energy on these infestors for fungals, as well as so much tanking potential from 44 roaches.
Wow. Nestea has to defend now with superior upgrades and superior hydrals, positioning the double expand response from Violet. Absolutely brilliant as he's running dry in his main and simply can transfer most of his workers over and just kind of resume right along. And now it looks like Nestea has decided he must control the center. He must deny these expansions. One reasonably good fungal is going to lead to a lot of dead roaches, but it looks like Violet is still trying to bait Nestea into an even worse engagement. Supply lead still goes to Nestea.
The one thing in the favor of Nestea now is he can keep an eye on his opponent's army thanks to that Overseer, but even still, he sees these roaches spreading themselves out. He's forced to pull back. There's no way he can deal with the concave that Violet is anticipating to set up here. And This is going to be so hard for Nestea to hold on to. He's up in terms of supply, sure, but still, you can never underestimate fungal growth.
They're both pretty much even in the roach count, 46 to 43, an extra 5 Hydras on the side of Nestea. He's getting up an extra 10, but we see 11 Hydras in production for viOlet. He's moving the spines over to his third base. We see this little counterattack force from Nestea swinging all the way around. It will be able to take out that middle base.
I like this move. He's trying to bring himself into a good spot, trying to do some damage where he can. He sees that base. He's not too happy. He's getting a few Hydras.
This is the real big win that Nestea needs. He needs to eliminate as many Hydras as humanly possible while avoiding these infestors. I mean, roaches are somewhat expendable. A nice burrow, but a very not nice fungal growth. 3 kills as we see Nestea not unburrowing at all.
Leaving those 3 roaches left there, but he just doesn't have the vision. Nice the counterattack here, though, by Nestea, killing off that base in the middle whilst all of that was going on. And Nestea, for now, still up in terms of supply, but he just does not have the Infestor tech. There's Hydralist Roach on either side, but no Infestor tech to speak of. That's really important in TVZ.
Repositioning of the spine crawlers by viOlet. Nestea holds the middle. And now it's finally just tied again in terms of everything. The supplies are tied. The only difference is that it's 23 Hydralisks for Nestea. And it is 5 Infestors for viOlet. Roach lead also goes to viOlet. It's all going to come down to fungals. Those Hydros just deal so much damage to these cramped spaces.
Oh my god, coming in from every side on this high ground, despite having that advantage. Nestea getting absolutely decimated by a huge, huge roach count. What a fantastic engagement there by viOlet.
viOlet just decimates it, hitting from all the possible angles. viOlet showing why he is a master of aggression in all matchups, just constantly assaulting Nestea, picking them apart, and in the final engagement has the money positioning.
GG. Wow.